"Why is the well crying, Papa?" I asked, pointing at the pale water sloshing over the stones. But Papa didn't answer. He just stared. That's when I noticed the flies, so many of them, swarming like ink spots over the bundle near his feet. A bundle with a small, twisted hand sticking out. My stomach tightened. I knew that hand. It was Ansel's. My brother. I wasn't supposed to see it. Children weren't supposed to look at those things. But there it was, realer than the sky and heavier than the ground, and no one moved to hide it. The summer had started bright. I remember running through the orchard barefoot, the soft mud sucking between my toes. Mama said I was always chasing after bees and getting stung, but I didn't mind. The world still smelled sweet then, like warm fruit and hay, and the kind of sunlight that made you forget bad things existed. Our village was small, just a handful of thatched roofs leaning into the hills like sleeping goats. Everyone knew everyone, and the days were measured by the church bell, the shape of clouds, and how many loaves came out of the oven. Then someone stopped ringing the bell. It was the kind of silence that curled inside your ears and stayed there, like an echo waiting to answer its own question. I asked Mama why, but she only rubbed her rosary so hard her knuckles turned white. That was the first sign. The second came when the rats started to run. They used to dance along the edges of the barn, bold little things that made Papa curse and Ansel laugh. But one morning, they flooded out of the fields like black water. I saw one leap into the well and vanish with a wet plop. Another scurried up the door and scratched at it like it was begging to be let inside. Then Ansel got sick. It started with a fever, then a cough, then something worse. His skin turned the color of bruised plums, blotchy and stretched like it didn't fit right anymore. He asked for snow, even though it was July. Said he was cold. Said the shadows looked like teeth. I sat with him that night. Mama had collapsed by the fire and Papa kept praying. Ansel's eyes twitched beneath his lids like he was dreaming of something awful, something he couldn't wake from. I held his hand. It was hot and slick and didn't squeeze back. He stopped breathing just before the rooster crowed. Mama didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood, picked him up, and walked out. I followed, my legs trembling, but I couldn't let her go alone. That's how we ended up at the well. That's when I saw it. The hand, Ansel, and flies. So many flies. After that, things stopped making sense. The baker stopped baking. The priest stopped preaching. A girl named Ellen wandered through the square humming to herself, dragging a doll with no head. She smiled at me when I passed, her teeth too white, her eyes too wide. I looked away. People began whispering about a sickness, a punishment, a cloud rolling in from the sea. They said it clung to clothes, to breath, to the wind. Some swore they could smell it, a bitter, metallic scent like old coins left in milk. Papa said it was nonsense, just fear-talking. But even he stopped going to the mill. And then the coughing started. It wasn't just one person anymore, it was all of them. Coughing through the walls, into sleeves, behind hands, into pillows. Some didn't even try to hide it. Their eyes bulged like they were drowning on dry land, and when they stumbled outside, their mouths left dark stains on the ground. One night, I woke up to footsteps. Not careful footsteps, but heavy, dragging ones. I peeked through the shutter. Someone was walking down the road with a cart. A wooden cart. It creaked with every turn of the wheel, and on it lay a bundle. 2 bundles. 3. Too many. I counted hands. Feet. A braid. The man pushing it didn't stop when a leg slipped over the side. He just kicked it back in and kept going. The next morning, the square smelled like old meat and something else. Wet earth, maybe, or something sourer. A pile of clothes sat at the edge of the well. No people. Just the clothes, arranged as if the people had melted right out of them. I stopped asking questions after that. But my mind didn't stop. It twisted and pulled at the corners of things, like a thread you shouldn't tug but can't ignore. Why did the dog stop barking? Why were the birds gone? Why was the well crying? One afternoon, Mama tried to boil rosemary in every pot. She said it would keep the sickness out. I asked how a plant could stop something invisible, but she snapped at me, told me not to doubt God. I didn't know if God was listening. That night, I dreamed of Ansel again. Only this time, he wasn't sick. He stood at the edge of the orchard, smiling, one arm behind his back. When I ran to him, he pulled out a dead bird. Its wings fluttered once. Then maggots spilled out. I woke up choking. Papa tried to send me to the neighbor's farm. Said it was safer there. But when we arrived, the door was wide open, and the beds were full, but no one moved. No one breathed. We left. We didn't talk on the way back. One morning, a man in a mask came through town. His face was hidden behind a long, curved beak, and his clothes were stiff like they were made of bark. Children whispered that he was a bird who could speak to souls. Others said he was the sickness itself. He came to our door. Mama didn't open it, but he left something behind, a bundle of herbs and a small wooden cross. Papa stared at it for hours before throwing it into the fire. That night, the air felt thick, like breathing through wet wool. The windows shook, and then Mama got sick. She didn't want me to see her. Told me to go outside, play, pray, anything. But I couldn't. I sat by the door, listening to her whisper names. My name, Ansel's. Names I didn't recognize. She begged for light. Said the shadows were crawling. Papa didn't move from her side. I watched the door until it stopped creaking. Until I knew. I sat in the garden for a long time. The weeds had taken over. Even the scarecrow looked tired, its arms sagging like it had given up. I tried to hum a tune Ansel used to sing, but the melody cracked in my throat. That's when I noticed the birds. They were back. Not all of them, just a few. Small, quiet ones with black feathers. They perched on the fence and watched me. Just watched. I didn't move. They didn't either. When the wind blew, their heads tilted in unison. And I could have sworn one of them whispered my name. The next morning, the sun rose red. Not pink or orange like it used to, but deep red, like the color that trickled from Mama's mouth before she went still. It stained the sky and made everything beneath it look wrong. Tilted, like the world had been turned slightly on its side while we were sleeping. I didn't cry. There were no tears left in me, just a tight, dry ache in my throat, like I'd swallowed sand and couldn't get it out. Papa buried her under the elm tree, where the roots grew so thick you had to push your shovel in sideways. He didn't say a prayer, just stood there, hands covered in dirt, staring into the hole like it might answer a question he hadn't spoken aloud. I didn't ask what we would do next. There was no next. There was only the waiting. The village had changed. Even the air smelled different, like vinegar and smoke and something sharp you couldn't name. Doors were shuttered, windows broken. It was quiet, not the good kind, but the kind that buzzes in your ears and makes your chest feel too small. One afternoon, I wandered to the chapel. The door hung crooked on its hinges. Inside, everything was still. Dust floated in the sunlight like tiny ghosts. The pews were empty, except for one. A woman sat there, rocking back and forth. Her face was turned away, her fingers tangled in her own hair. I stepped closer. She was humming. A lullaby. The same one Mama used to sing when the wind scared us at night. I backed away before she turned around. I didn't want to see her face. Outside, the world felt colder. Papa started talking to himself. Not loud. Just little murmurs under his breath, like he was trying to convince someone of something. I asked who he was speaking to, and he said, "No one you'd know, little star." He hadn't called me that since before Ansel left. That night, he gave me a piece of bread, hard as a stone, and told me to sleep in the cellar. He kissed my head like he used to and smiled with his mouth, but not his eyes. I curled up beneath the sacks of grain. The cellar smelled like damp earth and old wood, but it was quiet. Safer, somehow. When I woke, the house was burning. The light was orange, flickering and hungry. Smoke poured through the cracks above, curling into fingers that clawed for the floor. I screamed, but my voice vanished in the heat. I don't remember how I got out. Just flashes, the cold bite of air, the sting of ash in my eyes, the way my knees gave out in the grass. I turned back. The roof had caved in. There was no sign of Papa, only the black frame of the doorway. I waited beside the tree until the fire died. Then I waited some more. No one came. The next days blurred together. I wandered. I drank from streams. I slept beneath hedges. Sometimes I saw people, thin, wild-eyed people with hands like claws and voices that scraped the air like knives. I stayed away. Once, I found a horse standing alone in a field. Its skin clung to its bones, and its eyes were milky and blind. It didn't move when I approached, just stood there, swaying slightly in the wind. I whispered to it, told it my name. It didn't answer, but it didn't leave either. I kept moving. Eventually, I came to the edge of the forest. A line of dark trees, tall and still, like guards watching something you couldn't see. I thought about turning back, but back didn't exist anymore. So I went forward. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. Not the natural hush of branches and leaves, but a deeper kind of silence, like the world had forgotten how to breathe. I followed a narrow path that wound through the trees, stepping over roots like bones and patches of moss that squelched underfoot. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stop. Then I heard it. A voice. Soft. Low. Almost not there. It called my name. I froze. The trees leaned closer, listening. I turned, heart pounding. Nothing. Just shadows and bark. Then the voice came again. Closer this time. I ran. Branches clawed at my face, tore at my clothes. I didn't care. I ran until my legs gave out, and I fell, face first, into a patch of ferns. I lay there, panting, waiting for something, anything, to happen. But the forest stayed still, and the voice didn't return. When I sat up, the sun was setting, gold melting into blue. That's when I saw the cottage. Tiny, crooked, half swallowed by ivy. A chimney puffed thin threads of smoke into the sky. A light flickered behind the dusty window. I didn't know what else to do, so I knocked. The door creaked open. Inside was warmth. A fire. Bread on the table. A woman with silver hair stirring a pot. She didn't look surprised to see me. Just smiled and said, "You took your time." I should have been afraid. But I wasn't. She gave me soup. She let me sleep in a bed that smelled of lavender. She didn't ask my name. And I didn't ask hers. Days passed. Maybe weeks. The world outside didn't matter anymore. Inside the cottage, things were quiet, but not the terrifying kind. The good kind. The kind that made your heart stop racing. The woman spoke little, but she listened. She let me cry without asking why. She let me dream without waking me. And when I finally asked her if the sickness would find us here, she only said, "It already has. And it has passed." I didn't know what she meant. Not then. But I felt it. The ache didn't leave, not really. But it softened. Some nights, I still heard the voice in the trees. Some mornings, I woke with Ansel's name on my lips. But the cottage held me. And I held myself. I wasn't whole. But I was still here. And sometimes, that was enough.